Okay, we're good with that. And what is your name? And what is your name? Yitzchak Jacob. So you're Yosef Yitzchak, and you're Menachem Mendel, and you're Shneur Zalman. I see. That's your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and your great-great-grandfather, huh? And what's your name? So listen to me. I grew up in Crown Heights. I'm so spoiled. If you had 100th the opportunities that I had to be next to the Rebbe, you'd be such a big chassid. It would be embarrassing. Okay. I watched the Rebbe blow shofar. Maybe 15 years. I was by Yidavdus Fabrengens, most of them. The Rebbe started Fabrengen in 1971. I was 6. That I don't remember. But by 1974, when I was 8, I was there. And I probably didn't miss one until 1985. So I was by many Fabrengens here at Yidavdus. And I was there Pesach, I was there Sukkot, I was there by Hakafas, I was there. I'm so spoiled. I'm such a rotten, spoiled, no good guy. Can I tell you something about your grandfather? That's really like bad. I shouldn't tell it to you because it's going to make political in your house. But, okay. One year, Simchas Teda, your grandfather, put on sneakers and he climbed up one of the poles of 770 till the ceiling. And he sat there the whole Hakafas. So at first they was like, go down. Wait, go get him. Right? I got the great-grandfather, yeah? I was with yeshiva with your Zayde 45 years ago. In Elchana Chabad. So I grew up, I'll remember your grandfather's name soon. Anyway, so do I have memories? I have so many memories. The question is what I do with all these memories. You have no memories, right? Your father barely has memories. Your father was probably 8 or 9.
Right. No, he was 6.
6 by Gimel Tammuz. I was married with children by Gimel Tammuz. So how spoiled am I? How rotten am I? I should be such a big chassid, huh? I should be such a big chassid. But apparently, you're not a bigger chassid if you see the Rebbe more. You're not a smaller chassid if you see the Rebbe less. You're a bigger chassid if you work harder. And you're a smaller chassid if you waste your time. And I know myself pretty good. I must have wasted a lot of time. But I'll just tell you one thing about Yud Aleph Nisan, okay? Yud Aleph Nisan is the Rebbe's birthday. For many, many years, the Rebbe did not make a Fabrengen Yud Aleph Nisan. When the Rebbe first became Rebbe, nobody even knew when his birthday was. How did we find out what the Rebbe's birthday was? The Rebbe's mother. The Rebbe's Chana wanted very much that the Chassidim should celebrate the Rebbe's birthday, so she told the Chassidim, Yud Aleph Nisan is my son's birthday, you make sure to make a Fabrengen. So the Chassidim made a Fabrengen. The Rebbe went to the Oil. This is 1951, Tafshin Yud Aleph. That's 74 years ago. 74 years ago, my father, Zazain Gesund, was 12. It was almost bar mitzvah. And the Rebbe said to the Bachrim, anybody who agrees to become a chassid and to do what I say should write their name down on a paper and I'll take it to the oil of the previous Rebbe. And he said, I'm not going to ask you to do crazy things, but you should know it. If you sign that piece of paper, it's serious, it's not a joke. You signed that piece of paper. So all the Bachrim sat down the first year. 2 months after the Rebbe became Rebbe, Tafshin Yud Aleph, 1951. And all the Bachrim sat down, they signed their names on a paper, the Rebbe took it to the oil, okay? The next year, Tafshin Yud Beis, the Rebbe turned 50. When the Rebbe turned 50, the Rebbe invited about 20 Chassidim into his room, his office, and a few Bachrim, and the Rebbe said a maimed in his own room. He wanted to celebrate his birthday, but he was not comfortable making a Fabrengen. And during that maimed, the Rebbe cried a lot. He was very, very, very emotional. Very hard for the Rebbe. Then the next real Fabrengen, Af Nissen, was 10 years later. The Rebbe turned 60. They made an official Fabrengen. In that Fabrengen, the Rebbe said a maimed, 2 maimorim, and made a hadir. It was a very, very special Fabrengen. And then he didn't do it anymore. The next time the Rebbe made a Fabrengen at Af Nissen, when the Rebbe turned 69. When he turned 70, in 1971, the Rebbe made a short Fabrengen, and he went to the oil, came back to the oil, the sun was still shining, just like it is now, and they made a very short Fabrengen in the afternoon. And that Fabrengen, the Rebbe said a maimir, when you're going to be a bocher, which is going to be in a hiccup and a half, that maimir everybody learns. It's not an easy maimir, but it's the Yud Aleph Nisan Fabrengen is B'yei Mashtiyasa. The following year, 1972, the Rebbe turned 70. And now that I'm in the big Fabrengen, the official Fabrengen, by then, Lubavitch had already started doing shlichus. So there were shluchim, not that many, but there were shluchim all over the world. And everybody came to the Fabrengen. There's a video of that Fabrengen, there's an audio of that Fabrengen. You could listen to the tape, and you could watch the video. The Chassidim were so happy to be celebrating with the Rebbe. The mood in the Fabrengen was very energetic.
And this is like the first real big...
The first big official Fabrengen that became part of a program with Yeralef Islam at Beis. And at that Fabrengen, the Rebbe asked for a birthday present. The Rebbe was not like you. He didn't come to his parents and say, this is what I want for a birthday. But this was the exception. I'm going to ask for a birthday present. The birthday present that the Rebbe asked for was 70 new maistas. 71 new Chabad houses and Chabad institutions. Now today, 71 institutions happens in a month. But then, it was impossible. There were not 71 Lubavitcher maistas in the whole world then. You know how much the Rebbe got of his birthday present that year? 140. Twice what he asked for. It was a big birthday present. It was a lot. And the Rebbe got twice what he asked for. The Rebbe said that he's going to give 15% of the cost. If you build a shul, he'll give 50% of the cost of building the shul. You build a mikveh, he'll give 50%. But he said, I'm not going to give the last 15%, I'm going to give the first 15%. And the Rebbe got twice the gift that he had. The only time the Rebbe ever got more than he asked for was then, yeah. And then every year was a Fabrengen, Now I'm going to be honest, I was at all those Fabrengens as a child, but I don't remember, but I watched the videos. So once I watched the videos, I must have remembered that, but I'm not sure I did. For a few years, on Yud Aleph Nissen, people used to bring the Rebbe gifts by the Fabrengen. Someone would come into the Fabrengen, and he always said the same thing. That no one is coming to celebrate my birthday, you're coming to celebrate the movement of Lubavitch, and I happen to be the head of the movement of Lubavitch, so when you're celebrating my birthday, you celebrate the movement of Lubavitch and not me. And then at some point in the Fabrengen, one by one, people go to the Rebbe, give gifts, But you can't give the Rebbe a gift, I don't know what, a fountain pen or a new car. Those are not the kind of gifts the Rebbe likes, right? What kind of gifts did the Rebbe like? The Bochum is the Rebbe's Sfarim. The Bochum used to prepare Sfarim. And the Shlochim used to give the Rebbe gifts like the key to a Chabad house, the key to a city. People gave the Rebbe presents, pictures of himself and other things. And there's videos, you could see the videos, that Rabbi Groner used to come to the Fabrengen with a big wagon, with a cart, with shelves in it. And all the gifts that the Rebbe got would go into this wagon, and if Fabrengen was over, they would leave, and they would wheel the wagon out. So it was a whole, like a ceremony. You had an opportunity to go over to the Rebbe by the Fabrengen, present your gift, explain to the Rebbe what the gift was, and it was always ruchnius, it was something very spiritual, and the Rebbe would give you l'chaim, and you would say l'chaim was a very special moment. And I'm telling you again, if I told you I remember it, I'm a liar. But once I saw the movies, I said, it must have been there, it was there. But that only lasted till Lamed Zayin, from 1972 to 1977, which is 6 years. Then the Rebbe had the heart attack, Nebuch, in Tafshan Lamed Ches. And after the heart attack, they had to worry about the Rebbe's health, so they had to make the Fabrengen the shortest possible. So they said the Rebbe is going to make a Fabrengen, but you have to give in the gifts before. You see? So this is what used to happen. People come to 770 and they bring the Rebbe a gift, but after Lamed Zayin, after 1977, you could not present the gift personally to the Rebbe personally. You'd bring it into the office before, and the Rebbe knew before who gave what gifts, and then the Rebbe came downstairs, and there was a Fabrengen. The last Fabrengen of Yud Aleph Nissen was 1985, Tafshin Mem Hey, when I was in Yeshiva. The following year, the Rebbe stopped bringing Yud Aleph Nissen. But he started doing something else. The Rebbe stopped bringing, the last Fabrengen Yud Aleph Nissen was this year, 40 years. Tafshin Mem Hey. Now we're holding Tafshin Pei Hey. The last Yud Aleph Nissen Fabrengen was 40 years ago this year. The following year, the Rebbe stopped Fabrengen and he started doing something else. Take a wild guess. What did the Rebbe start to do? Rebbe started much earlier. Dollars. Yud Aleph Nissen Tafshin Lamed Vav. The Rebbe stopped Fabrengens by giving dollars, but he didn't give dollars once a year. He gave dollars every Sunday, and thousands of people would pile by. And the Rebbe, you ever watch videos of dollars?
Yes.
Yeah, but you only watch the interesting videos. The boring ones they don't show you. Right? The interesting one is people talk to the Rebbe and have conversations. But the boring one is when you and I would go by, bracha v'atzlacha, bracha v'atzlacha, bracha v'atzlacha, the whole thing took 5 seconds. You waited in line for hours, and you walked by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe looked into your eyes, bracha v'atzlacha, bracha v'atzlacha. Are you afraid to open your mouth? You were so afraid of the Rebbe. I always tell people, you could get $1 from the Rebbe. Your grandmother could give you, maybe your father could give you. The one thing you can't have is the waiting in line. I once waited in front of the Rebbe's house. It was home. In the pouring rain, for 3 hours. Because since it was raining, they let the ladies go first. And as soon as the ladies were finished, the men started going. 5 ladies showed up. They stopped the men's line. So I remember standing in front of the Rebbe's house. I walked into the Rebbe's house. I was a walking puddle. I was a droplet. The whole of my body was soaked. You walk up to the Rebbe, looks at you, bracha v'atzlacha, next. Bracha v'atzlacha was very quick. See, here's what you don't appreciate. The Rebbe had eyes that were magic. When the Rebbe looked at you, you looked away. You ever try looking at the sun? Yeah, ever try looking at the sun? Yep. You tried? It hurts, right? It burns only hurts. The Rebbe's eyes burned like the sun. He would look through. So the Rebbe looked at you and you couldn't look back. But you, with a split second, your eyes and the Rebbe's eyes would meet. And that moment, you knew for sure, I knew for sure, that the Rebbe knows everything about you. If I walked by the Rebbe on a given Sunday, let's say, or by Keshel Bracha, when the Rebbe gave wine, and I was in a good place, I was in a holy place, the Rebbe's eyes showed that he was happy. If I walked by the Rebbe and I was not in a good place, if I was not doing so good, the Rebbe's eyes looked sad. If I was in a place where I was getting lazy, the Rebbe's eyes looked like, no! Nobody knew except me and him. But every single person who walked by the Rebbe, and for a split second, your eyes, Rebbe's eyes touched, it was like a conversation that lasted 10 minutes. That was the power of that. That is the power of the Rebbe. You waited 4 hours to go by the Rebbe for a split second, and you had to pay attention. You know what happens to you after waiting in line for 3 hours? Huh? You have gone on a roller coaster and wait for 3 hours in line? That doesn't happen anymore. You have amusement parks in Cleveland.
Yeah, the point is an hour away.
How long was the longest line you ever waited for a ride?
An hour?
An hour. Imagine waiting 3 hours. By the time you get on the ride, you're so sick and tired, you can't even enjoy it anymore. And the ride lasts 2 seconds and it's over, right? Why did I wait 3 hours? It should have been a longer ride, huh? Nobody asked you to wait in line. You waited forever. And the Rebbe looked at you for a split second. So what happened was, when we got closer to the Rebbe, you had to sort of stop and say, whoa, I just waited in line for 3 hours. I cannot go over to the Rebbe nervous. I cannot go over to the Rebbe agitated. I have to go over to the Rebbe calm. So you would stop. Sometimes you'd even go out of the line and say, you go ahead of me. You try to catch your breath. So by the time you walked up to the Rebbe, in that split second that the Rebbe looked at you, and you looked at the Rebbe, you were there for the conversation. The Rebbe would look at you. And then the Rebbe said, every Sunday the Rebbe gave dollars. From that Yud Aleph Nisan till the stroke, 12 years. 6 years.
There was never a Yud Aleph Nisan for every after
Right,
that?
except for Shabbos. No more. No more for Yud Aleph Nisan. Right, that's when it stopped. The last one was Tafshin Lamed Hey, with Meme, 40 years ago this year. So that's the story. I spoke to the girls. The girls raised this question. What makes the Rebbe your Rebbe? Not your father's the Rebbe, not your grandfather's Rebbe. What makes the Rebbe your Rebbe? You never met him. Huh? I'm not sure what makes the Rebbe your Rebbe, but whatever it is that it takes, you got to do the work. To be a chassid, to have a Rebbe, you have to be a chassid. To be a chassid, you got to give. So this is your job, this is your avodah, to figure out how you're going to give what you need to give in order to have a real relationship with the Rebbe, a Rebbe that you never saw, begashmias, physically. If I say just a minute. So did I answer your question? A little bit. I want to tell you something. Your name is Menachem Mendel. Shnei Zalman. Who's Menachem Mendel? You're younger or older?
I'm younger.
You're younger. So Shnei Zalman comes from Menachem Mendel. Kum Techoiset. I want to tell you something. We used to push in 770. With a lot of people. And sometimes we would also be mean to people in 770. Every year on Rosh Hashanah, the Gabi would get up and he'd make an announcement. And the announcement was that during the entire time of davening, during Kriyas HaTorah, during Maftir, during the preparations for the Tkiyah Shofar, the blowing of the Tkiyah Shofar, during all the things that are going to happen, everybody should stand in their place. They shouldn't stand on any milk boxes. They shouldn't stand on any benches. The whole shul is already standing on the milk boxes and on the benches. And he's announcing no one should stand on milk boxes. Everyone's already on the benches, but he's saying nobody moves. And he would finish his speech by saying, Medavissen, he was a Polish. He would announce, Medavissen Kedishas HaYom and Kedishas HaMukim. If know the holiness of the day and the holiness of the place. Medavissen vi mishtayt and vavem mishtayt. You speak Yiddish. You have to understand where you're standing and in front of whom you're standing. And what he meant was, excuse me people, you're in the Rebbe's presence, behave. And we forgot. A lot of us forgot. So it became like a big joke in 770. Because every year the Gabbai made the same exact announcement, word for word. So at the end of the speech, when you finish, you shouldn't stand on any benches, you shouldn't stand on any milk boxes, you should stand in one place, it should be respectable. And he would finish off his speech by saying, Davishin, Kedishas HaYom and Kedishas HaMukim, if know the holiness of the day, no holiness of the place. And the whole shul, you know how in some minyanim, the end of the Aliyah, everyone sings together. So the whole 770 would sing together. But Davishin, Vi Mishtayt, Avem Mishtayt, and crack up. This became like already the minig, you know. He would make his whole speech about everybody should behave. And when he finished his speech, the whole shul would sing with him, Vi mishtayt, if Avem mishtayt, and crack up. Anyway, the Gabbai was sick and tired of being made fun of. So one year he didn't finish his speech. But the holiness of the day and the holiness of the place, and he stopped. So we all missed on our, the end of the Aliyah kind of thing. And the Rebbe turned around and Rebbe wanted to have the end of the speech. Excuse me, what about the last words? You know what the last words mean? You're standing in front of the Rebbe, behave. You're standing in front of the Rebbe, behave. I have to tell you, if I could redo what I did when I was a boy, I would behave very different. Because we're standing in front of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe knows what everybody is doing, what everybody is thinking, what everybody is feeling. All the controversy, all the politics, all the ego, all the, I don't like you, the Rebbe feels it all. And if I could do it all over again, one of the many things that I would do over differently was to appreciate how special it is to be in the Rebbe's holy presence and not to take it for granted. You understand? What would you do to meet the Rebbe? What would you do? You'd give your left hand. And in Mitzvah Hashem, we all expect Mashiach to come and you'll see the Rebbe. But right now, as it is right now, the Rebbe from Sfarim, the Rebbe from people, from me.
Did the Rebbe tell Chassidim to do something special on the Nisa? Did he give any hurrah for a Chassid on the Nisa?
He would sometimes make requests of us. Lamash, I told you before that in Tafshin Lamed Beis, I've made the request that we should make 71 new Chabad houses. 10 years later, Tafshin Mem Beis, they made another request. What the request was? That every Jewish man and woman should have a letter in the Sefer Torah. 6 months earlier, no. Was that, they haven't made a request that we should make a Sefer Torah for Tzivos Hashem. You know what Tzivos Hashem is, right? Yeah. 6 months before the Rebbe started Tzivos Hashem in Chalamed Sukkos, that Pesach 1981, it was 81, the Rebbe said, I want to ask you a favor. I want to ask you something. And the Rebbe asked that every Jewish child should have a letter in the Sefer Torah. It was Mamalef. It was 44 years ago. I want to ask you a favor. Every Jewish child should have a letter in the Sefer Torah.
So that was basically the Hurrah?
It wasn't basically. The Rebbe wanted.
That was the Hurrah?
Yeah, and we did it.
It's still going on.
Yes, it is. But the Rebbe pushed it. The Rebbe wanted to know what's taking so long and why we have more people having oisias. The Rebbe pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. As much as he could. Yeah, kind of harder. If you have no questions or comments, I will tell you a story and then I will let you go and then you can laugh till Pesach and after Pesach. So what's two choices? Questions or comments? I'll tell you a story.
Story.
Tell you a story. I heard the story 45 years ago. So when I heard the story was a new story. Now it's an old story. When I heard the story was less than 10 years old. Okay? There was a shliach living someplace in America. He had a big state, like Minnesota, like Ohio, where the Jews were very spread out. The Jews were not living in centers. The Jews were very, very spread out. When Yidden are spread out, it's very hard to make a Chabad. You can't make Chabad for every Jew. You have to have a community. So in the big city where there was enough Jews, they made a community. But in the small Shatlach, there were simply not enough Jews to make a Beis Chabad. So the rabbi had a custom that every summer he would take a month and he would travel all over the state in which he lived and he would look for Yidden. Every year, before he made this trip, he would write to the Rebbe a letter, our Rebbe a letter, that he's planning to make his trip, he's spending this much time in these places, what suggestions does the Rebbe have? So usually there was no suggestion. Thank you for the good news. Vergessen to it. Be well. Then, one year, he's going off to do this shlichus work, and he writes a letter to the Rebbe like he always did, and usually the Rebbe never made any comments. This time the Rebbe writes, you'll probably visit this and this city. And he writes the name of a city. You'll probably visit this and this city. The guy never heard of that city. So he goes to the post office and says, does anybody know the name of a city which is named such and such? He said, nope, there's no such city. But he knew that the Rebbe told him that you go to this and this city, there is such a city. So he went to in America. So he goes to the central post office in the whole city that he lived, and he asked them, is there a city by this and this name? Tell him, yeah, there is a city. But it's 2 hours by drive away from the nearest community. And the whole city is a road. There's 3 buildings. There's a post office, a general store that sells everything, food and matches and knives and hatchets and guns and bullets, and a church lahav. The whole city is three stores. You could drive by the whole city without even paying attention because it's just such a tiny little space. Around those 3 stores, there were a bunch of people living. Some of them were Jews, some of them were not Jews. And they were very, very special, very rural, very, very like suburban, not in a big city. And the Rebbe tells this Chassidus go to this and this city. In most maps, the name of the city was not even on the map. Just in certain places, they had the city on the map. So the Rebbe told him to go to this and this city. So he traveled to the city. It took him a long time to get there, a very long time. Because it was in the middle of nowhere. When he gets to this place, he asks, are there any Jews in this town? So some young guy said to him, what's a Jew? I never heard of Jews. Oh, Hebrews in the Bible. So he decides he's here anyway. He'll stay here the whole day and he'll leave. If there's no Jews, there's no Jews. So he sits in his car. Every hour he gets out of the car, walks the whole, you imagine a whole city that's 3 stores, and all around there's farms. Everybody has a farm, 5 miles away, 3 miles away, 2 miles away, half a mile away, and people are very, very spread out. And there's this one little street with a post office, a general store, and lahav beis tifla, a church. Anyway, at the end of the day, he gets out of the car to daven mincha. And while he's davening mincha, don't interrupt. Anyway, this guy gets out of his car. It's the end of the day. He spent a whole day in this town. There's not a Jew for hundreds of miles. And he stands next to his car and he's davening mincha. Okay, this is a true story. Anyway, he's davening mincha. And as he's davening, he hears a voice. And the voice gets louder and louder. Right there. And anyway, he realizes someone's crying. By the time he finishes Manasseh, somebody is right next to him. He looks up. He sees a lady. She looks like she's 150 years old. Very old, small little shriveled up lady. And she's crying. She could barely talk. So when he finishes davening, he says to this woman, how can I help you? And this lady says, I can't. She couldn't talk. She points at her house, which was, 1,000 feet away. So he walks with this old lady to this house. They go into this little tiny house. And she's crying, and she's
150?
1,000 feet away, let's say. She wasn't actually 150 years old. She looked like she's 150 years old. She was 80. And she takes him to her house, and it takes her a long time till she calms down. And when she calms down, she says to him, you know that I'm a Jew. I'm a Jew. I was born here in this little tiny village. My parents were Jewish. I was born here. I was raised here. I never left this place. We never went to anything. We didn't go to shul. We didn't daven. We didn't make Pesach. I just know one thing: I'm a Jew. That's all I knew. I got married here. I had children here, Jewish children, and they all moved away. I'm living by myself. I never ever did anything Jewish except one thing. The only Jewish thing that I do is I don't go into the church. In the room in the church where you have the tzlames, the crosses, the basement have a hall where they make weddings and parties. This she would go into, but the room with the tzlames, I never went into the room with the crosses. I don't even know why. I just know a Jew doesn't belong in a room with Avodah Zarah. She says, 6 months ago we had a new galach. And the new galach is young and religious. And the galach is looking for whom he could save, who he can bring to Gan Eden. But everybody was good Christians, they're all going to church. And he noticed that I don't walk into the sanctuary. I would go into the building, I went downstairs, I never went into the sanctuary. So he started to watch me and to watch me and to watch me, and he saw that it wasn't coincidental, but that's on purpose. I'm not going into the room with the church crosses. So he comes over to me, this young galach, and says, "You're a Jew, huh? You're a Jew." So I said to him, "Nobody knows. Nobody knows. How do you know?" He says, "Because I see that you don't want to walk into the sanctuary." He says to her, "You know that you're a very old lady, and you're going to die soon. And God of the Jews is very old. Abish is old. Yoshke is a newer God. He's younger, and he's not so overbottle. Before you die, you want to become a Christian, because Chas v'Shalom, you're going to die as a Jew. The Abish is hard of hearing. The Abish can't see. The Abish is old." She says to the guy, "Listen, I'm a very simple lady. I never went to school. I can't argue with you, but I'm a Jew. I was born a Jew. I'm going to die a Jew." And this galach would come to her house every day and sit by her table and make her crazy that before she dies, she has to baptize herself, Rahman Lassan, just to become a Christian and save her soul and blah, 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 blah. And every day she tells him, "No, no, no." And she says to him, "I don't know myself why, but I know that a Jew doesn't become a goy. It's that simple." And he didn't leave me alone. He didn't leave me alone. And he made me so crazy. I said, "You know what? I'll make a deal with you. 30 days. 30 days. If I don't meet a single Jew, I'll baptize myself." And the guy said, "Okay, deal. 30 days. No mail from any of your children, no phone calls, no Jewish contact for 30 days. You're going to become a Christian." She agreed. She says, "Rabbi, as soon as I said those words, I realized that I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said them, but it was too late. Every morning I ran to the post office to see if I'll get, I don't know, maybe it's tzedakah. Some organization wants to have, tells the yeshiva is asking me if it's tzedakah, or I don't know what. No Jewish mail came. I went to the phone, I waited, maybe the kids will call me, nothing happened. And every day, the galach would come and say, "Remember, there's only 23 days left." And I would say with all my confidence, 23 days. Then it was 50 days. "Remember, in 15 days, I have 15 days. She says, "Rabbi, today is the last day." I woke up in the morning and I ran to the phone. I went to the mailbox. There's no mail from a Jew. I ran to the phone. There's no phone calls. And the galachs already telling me, "Remember, the sun sets tonight. You're going to become a Christian." And I look out my window and I see you standing outside. "What are you doing here?" And the chassid said, "There's a Rebbe who lives thousands of miles away, who hears the cry of every Yiddish neshama, and he heard your cry, and he sent me here today." Huh? Verstehst? It's not once upon a time, this is now. The Rebbe hears the cry of every Jew, and he sends people to help us. This is why we're chassidim of a Rebbe that we never met. You understand? You understand, Kinderlach? Okay, Akash Tefilach and Pesach, you're a great audience.